So let's take a tally. How many times this week did you beat yourself up? How many times did you feel like you were failing? And how many times did you tell yourself that you're never going to make it as a freelance writer and that everything is shitty? So this topic today is really about beating yourself up and failing fast and how those things kind of intertwine, how they kind of like beat up on your self-esteem, and then also why failing fast and why doing all these failure things are really important to growing as a freelance writer. So, hey Vicky, I always love the wave. So we're talking about the first thing, like as we're kind of going through failing and failing fast, a million. Hey Holly, um, as we're going through, let's do number one. So number one here, oops, there we go. Number one. So number one here, when we're going through this, what is failing fast? And this was something that I didn't understand for the longest time. I just thought it was like a nice sounding idea. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, A0B1 Z0. I like that, Biggie. So when you're failing fast, what does that actually mean? So when you're thinking about failure, failing fast is that you are trying a lot of things, right? And you are failing at a bunch of things. You're trying a lot of things in a short period of time, right? And it's just like a way to make sure that you are experimenting in your business, that you're seeing what works and doubling down on that. And for me, when I was failing fast, I was like, man, every every like 3 to 4 months, I'm making a huge mistake or I'm making a ton of failures. And didn't realize, like, as I had done that many, many times, and I still do it all the time. I didn't realize that that was really failing fast. Failing fast is like every few months you come up with like a big kind of learning. And this is what it is to me. There's different definitions, but to me, failing fast is that you're trying really hard. You're trying a bunch of different things. And like every few months you end up with like some big failure where you're like, oh shit, I made a huge mistake. So for me, that's every 3 to 4 months. And you're kind of like trying different things to see what works. And if you don't end up trying a lot of stuff and you don't end up failing a lot of times this is what I see freelance writers get stuck. They get stuck at a certain income level. They get stuck with a certain set of clients. They get stuck at this place where they're like, man, I should be growing, or I should be over here, or I should, or I want. And it's because they're not failing fast. So failing fast really is rooted in more of this kind of like, I'm just going to try and see how it works out, rather than being like totally afraid of failure. And when you kind of more trust in your ability to figure things out, that was a principle that I pulled from Brendan Burchard years ago. So if you really believe in your ability to figure things out, failing fast is like part of the process. Because if you're trying a bunch of stuff and you believe you're going to figure it out, then eventually one of those things is going to get messed up and you're going to fail. But a lot of other things are going to work out. So as you kind of move along with failing fast, as long as you're, or not as long, when you're kind of doing the process, I think it's more about being open-minded and moving away from the idea that like failure reflects poorly on you, right? And there's also the idea that when you're kind of doing stuff, you don't like win or lose, you either win or you get a lesson, right? And that's kind of what failing fast is too, is that you get a bunch of lessons. You haven't failed. But you've got a bunch of things that you shouldn't do or you should do, or things that you learned how to do better, or lessons that you can take into the future. Yeah. Vicky says, thanks for the 3 to 4 month figure. This helps me estimate how much extra money I need to earn in order to avoid failures or afford failures. Yeah. I think it's just, for me, a lot of times when I'm thinking about failure, it's not even just money sometimes. It's a lot of just self-confidence, or like I didn't believe in myself, or I left a ton of money on the table, or I ended up working with clients I shouldn't have, where like I knew I shouldn't be working with them, but I was like, I'll just try it. And then I was like, oh yeah, that confirmed my belief not to do that. Hello, welcome. Welcome to the live stream, creeper. Oh my gosh, both you guys have your little bug eyes. We'll do a quick update in a second, and I'll tell you guys what's been going on with the furs. Hello, Snuggle. But as we're thinking about failing fast, we want to think about it as like an opportunity to kind of springboard our learning, and we want to look at it as an opportunity to don't step on her. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Can you go back to your little hole? Thanks. Thanks, buddy. Can you lay down? Thank you. All right, Charlotte, you can go back to your hubble hole now. think of your failing fast as a set of opportunities, or a way to take the pressure off of like your mental health, where you're like, I've got to do this. Oh my God. Like almost every time you fail, it's not as catastrophic as you think. Um, it was a good shot of them for once. And think about it as like your ability to fail is like how you actually go forward in your business. Like your ability to accept failure, to understand the lessons, to move forward, to try new things, to believe that you're going to figure it out. That is way more, that's the process. That's the worthwhile process, rather than beating yourself up over failures or thinking you're like, oh my God, I'm failing all the time. This was something that I did to myself, was like, my friends just seemed to like, I had a bunch of friends and some of them were failing a bunch like me. And some of them just like went off and like their business just boomed. And I was like, how are you doing this? And when I was kind of like working on growing my business, I mean, I still am, but this was years ago. And I was just like, man, like I'm doing it wrong. Like I'm failing all the time and my friends aren't. Like my friends are either working with dream clients, or they're working on bigger projects, or they are like their marketing seems to be going so quickly, or they're making more money, or this thing seems so easy for them. But the key is like everybody is in their own little business journey. Like you failing quicker gets you better on your own business journey. Like it pushes you in your own, in your own path. But your friends will always have their own challenges, like things they don't talk about, or things that like, may not be a challenge for you, but are a challenge for them. And everybody's on their own cycle. So even if you're failing fast right now, which you should always be failing fast, but even if you're failing fast and your friends aren't, they're going to get to a point where they either get stuck, right? Or they end up having to get in that cycle as well. Hey, Shista. Hey, Marie. Welcome. Yeah, the Hobbit hole. Hi, guys. So as we started the rake thing. So let's just do pup date, because we've got activity going on. So hold on. Let's just pop that on. There we go. Oh man, Charlotte, why do you look so mad? Probably because Barry's raking and stuff. So let me give you guys a little pup date update. A little pup date. So Barry had surgery. The eye that's closest to the camera, that looks kind of smaller than the other eye, that's the one he had. He had a mass removed from that eye, and he's been doing great. Like he didn't seem to like care at all, which is just, classic Barry. Hey, Lisa. And Charlotte, hold on. Let's see if we can get everybody on camera. There we go. Charlotte, high five. High five. As you can see, Charlotte has been shaved on one arm. Let's see if we can show everybody your shaved arm, Charlotte. Hold on. Ready? Good girl. This one. All right. So see, we've been shaved. We've been shaved on our arm here. Hi, Barry. You got to back up. And that is because Charlotte decided to get friendly with a cactus. So basically, Bo got out of surgery, and as usual, a couple days later, Charlotte decided that she needed to have a medical emergency. So she got friendly with a cactus. She basically, what I guess is that the cactus had a bunch of other, dog smells on it, and that's why she was sniffing it. Because, we live in Texas. There's lots of cactuses, and we've never, we really haven't had a problem with her and cactuses before. And so anyways, she got a whole mouthful of spines and a whole chin full of spines, and we got most of them out, but there was 4 left. So we had to take her to the emergency vet and get those removed. So they had to put her under to get them out, because she's a wiggle worm. Plus one was in her tongue, which is really hard to get to. But yeah, so exactly what Holly said. She can't be one-upped. So that's the thing, is like whenever one of them seems to have something, the other one's like, my turn. So like last time, Bo had a medical emergency and Charlotte got sprayed by a skunk and skunked our whole house. And this time Barry had to go in to get a mass removed off of his eye. He had a little eye bump on there. And and Charlotte was like, nope, I'm going to eat this cactus. Back up. Good job, Bean. So that's our pup date so far. So Charlotte's feeling fine. Bo's feeling fine. Everybody's feeling good and back to normal. But we've had multiple different situations with these two. And it's been a wild ride this year in terms of dog stuff. So I just want to give you guys that pup date about how they were doing. So basically, you know, Charlotte Frenched a cactus, and then we had to go to the emergency vet. So, all right, let's talk about number 2. So let's talk about why failing fast is really good for us as freelance writers. So, are you going to bug her? So, as we're failing fast, right? Why is failing fast really good? Well, the more you fail, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better your business is, right? So, years ago when I was failing fast and I used to be really, she did French a cactus, yeah. So, years ago, when I was failing all the time, I would get really upset about it. I would just like, I was like, why is this happening? Like, I'm trying really hard and like everything's blowing up in my face. But really what that was like me learning a lot of lessons really quickly. So a lot of things that other people took years to learn, I learned them in a few months because I kept making all these mistakes and it kept blowing up in my face. So what I should have learned, and what I hope you're taking from this, is like, instead of me being distraught and being like, I'm a failure and I can't do this and I shouldn't be doing this, and then burning out, think of it as like, what are the lessons that I'm learning? If I'm failing fast, I'm learning fast. So then I can apply that to my business. Like, what types of things am I learning here that can either propel my business or change my business or give me better insight into my clients or my work or how I want to, like, what direction I want to take my business. So yeah, Shista says her cats also compete at the vet. Yeah. I don't know why that is. It's just so weird. Animals. So as you're failing fast, it's a really good loop. Like, it's this repetitive process almost where, like I said, like for me, it's like every 3 to 4 months, and I still do it now. Like, I'm still trying enough stuff now where like things blow up in my face, or I end up, you know, doing a project I shouldn't be doing, or I end up pushing myself too far and I need a break. But I'm always trying to like iterate and change things. And as I'm kind of doing that, that's the failing fast part. So for us, as freelance writers, the more we try and the more we experiment and the more we kind of build our confidence in like, I can figure it out, rather than beating ourselves up and being like, why isn't everybody else suffering? That was me. These things actually make your business go faster. It helps you get to the next level quicker because you're more willing to try things than other people. Like, I think it's kind of this nice separation in building confidence. Like for me, after all the things I've done so far, like I have a lot more confidence now. So like, even just thinking about me teaching my course, right? So like, even if I think about my business and my course, like the first time I ran my course, I was so nervous and I didn't know how it would turn out, and I didn't know what people would think of the information. And I knew that the information was a lot different than what they'd received before. And it was like super bootylicious, like very heavy, dense material sometimes. And I was really nervous about it. But now, like, I've done the course enough times to be like, I've got this. There's like, you know, I'll figure it out. Like, even if someone asks me a question about something I don't know about, I'll go figure it out. It's not a big deal. But that confidence came from me like making a lot of mistakes and taking a lot of risks and trying a bunch of different things. And even now, like, I constantly ask for feedback, right? Because the feedback makes all of the stuff better. So if I'm asking for feedback from clients on my writing, or I'm asking for feedback on the course or whatever, that kind of stuff lets me know like where I can make things better. I'm not like, oh my God, you didn't make the perfect workbook. I'm just like, oh, we should make it better. Like, that's something I learned about how they use it or what makes sense, or the types of things that go together. So for me, I just kind of feel like when you're failing fast, that makes your business go quicker, and it helps you learn more, and it builds more confidence and more self-esteem. And it's actually better for your mental health. For me, failing fast, like the mindset shift that I got from that was way better. Like it allows me to deal with more uncertainty in my business. It allows me to take more risk, and like better calculated risks. It allows me to go for things I wouldn't have gone for a few years ago. It allows me to work with all these different types of clients and try things out. And there's a lot of different good things that just come from just trying things. Like, the other thing too is that I often think about like, am I working to my potential? Like, am I providing the content that is of like my potential? Am I working, like I want to, you know, realize the amount of potential that I have. So one of those things that happens, right, when you're failing fast is that you like end up burning out, right? And then you're like, oh, that was too much. But now at least you know, like, this is the edge of my potential. Like, this is where I should kind of like cut things off. And this is where I should kind of like rest. And this is where I need to do this. And that kind of helps you learn, like, how many hours do I really have in a day? How many hours do I have in a day to do work, to walk the dogs or do personal stuff, to exercise, to take calls, to do all these other things? And that's another thing where I feel like for me, a lot of times, sorry, hold on. So for me, a lot of times when I'm asked, like, how do I get so much stuff done in a day? It's because I kept experimenting and I kept failing and I kept like having these little like schedule snafus to the point where like now I get a lot done in a day. So like, even though like it's kind of that thing where like we all have the same hours in the day, but like I'm really efficient with a lot of processes. Some things I'm still slow at. Like I'm still slow as a writer. Like when I actually sit down to write something, it takes a long time. But all my other processes are efficient and systematized and processized and automated as much as possible because I've made all these mistakes or because I've gotten into different types of situations where like a good example was like when I was doing a ton of interviews. We talked about this with my students. I was doing a ton of interviews and I would have a lot of people rescheduling or it was really hard to schedule these interviews. So I set it up in Dubsado that they would also, or that they would schedule their interview in Dubsado, and not until 1 hour before that interview could they cancel it or reschedule it. So if they really had a problem, they could send me an email and say, hey, I made a mistake in my schedule. Can I change this? And it cut down my reschedules by a ton because when you just let people reschedule, like the minute they schedule an interview, they just like play around in the calendar. It's a huge headache. So that was something where it was like, I failed so many times that I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this like back and forth schedule, blah, blah, blah. Like it's too many emails. It's too many people. So then I set it up in Dubsado, right? And then I still had people rescheduling. But then I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to send them the 1 hour reminder. And when they get the 1 hour reminder, that's when they can reschedule or cancel. And it just like, it helps so much. But it was like, I had all these headaches that I kind of had to deal with first. Like I had to have the headaches and the problems to look for a solution, right? Holly says, yes, circle community for the win. Yeah, definitely. And Marie says, every time I fail, I go into circle and I ask, and then like magic, I get 5 suggestions about how to be better. Yeah, that's another important thing is like when you're failing fast and you are around other people who understand how to fail fast or who are trying things, or who are like operating in a safe environment where people want them to try things. Like there's a lot of communities sometimes where I feel like you're not allowed to do that. Like you have to do the prescribed path. And when you don't do the prescribed path, you're in trouble. Like you shouldn't do that. Like, why aren't you following the rules? And then everybody's business is different. And if you try something and you go off and you find a platform that's better than the one I'm using to do whatever, tell everybody. We should all be doing that now. Like the iteration and the getting better and making your business more sustainable and more mental health friendly and more fun, that's important. We need that. We need that in failing fast. So like, I always feel like having a supportive environment or an environment where you feel safe to experiment with different business things, whether they blow up in your face or not, that's really important too. And that was another thing that, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and Holly says this too. Holly says, oh, we've got some wiggle friends. Holly says, I literally cried the first time I got a pitch rejection. I think I did too, Holly. I think I did too, so don't feel bad. Then got encouragement from the community and the cake list idea, and it's been so much easier to be like, okay, keep going. So one of the things that we talked about was a cake, and this is something that we can do when we're going through this stuff. So actually, I'm going to switch to 3 as we go, because this is a third part. So the third part, number 3 here, one of the things that my community recommended was Andrea said that she gets a cake like I forget what it is, but there's a number of rejections and she gets to buy a cake, which I think is fantastic, right? Like you're supposed to be trying. Rejections are part of the process. And you're like, basically the cake is to celebrate the fact that you're trying, right? That you're failing fast. And that's what she's talking about is the cake idea. So you make a bunch of rejections, like 100. Every time you get 100 rejections, you buy a cake to celebrate how much you're trying and how much hard work you're putting in. And that you're putting yourself out there, even though it's scary, right? And you are failing fast. I think that's a really, really good, really good way to kind of pump yourself up and make yourself feel good about trying things. And instead of beating yourself up, you celebrate it, right? You do something cool with it. Bless you. Hold on. Let's do a pup date since everybody's over here and not where they're supposed to be. All right, Barry, you got to go back to your hobble hole. Barry, oh, sorry. Go back to your hobble hole. Good job, buddy. Sit. Close enough. When you're 16, you know what? Sit and down sound very familiar. Can you give me a high five? Good job. Other one. Good job. You look super cute today. Barry, you look super cute. I like how your eyeball is healing very well and that you're being a good citizen today. I think it's because we got you a bigger blanket for raking. High five. Good job. High five. High five. Good job. Other one. Nope. Other one. Good job. Oh my gosh. Drool machine today. Drool machine. Drool machine, probably because she's ready to French another cactus. She's like, let's get out there. Let's go wild. Let's find some cacti. Oh my gosh. You guys are too cute. You guys are too cute. You guys are funny though, because like I'm trying to get it to readjust. There we go. It readjusts the lighting so you guys can see Charlotte because, they're so different in color. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. All right, Barry, you ready? Good job. High five. Good girl. Other one. Good job. You look like a superstar today. You guys are like superstars today. Oh, and the same thing, yeah, Holly makes a good point too that we should talk about is software and stuff that you use to run your business. So this is another piece that we should talk about in terms of failing fast. So as we kind of go through things and we're failing fast, I didn't know about Butter either. Butter is where we go and co-work together in our course and community. So we go on Butter. It's just butter.us. And it's really, really great. And I didn't hear about it until someone else was using it. And that was just like, let's just try it. Maybe it'll blow up in our faces, but at least we'll try it. And it's been super fun. It's been super fun to do that instead of Zoom or instead of doing it on Circle, because Circle's not super great right now with co-working. Circle's really great for all the community stuff. But I think things like that, like how can we make it more fun or more efficient or give ourselves more options? Because on Zoom, there's not as many options as there are on Butter. Butter, you can have agendas, you can have music, you can have flashcards, you can have questions, you can have all these different templates. And that was just from trying it, right? So I think it's also just the ability to kind of try things that you wouldn't normally, like I kind of was looking for a solution because I didn't want to get on Zoom again because I'm on Zoom so much. And I just, came across Butter, thought we would try it. And I think that's really important is like, just try things, try it out, fail fast. Don't beat yourself up that, oh my God, it wasn't the perfect platform. It doesn't matter. Go find something else. Like you can cry about it for 24 hours. There's a bunch of writers that have actually read about this. And I sometimes do this where like, if something blows up in your face, spend 24 hours, you cry about it all you want, then you move on the next day. All right. So, oh, it's 100 rejections? Okay. He did look like Bo did look like a Bond villain with his eye. His eye definitely looked like a Bond villain when it was like all messed up, like it's getting better now. Like the eye that he had the corneal ulcer in, you can see it's kind of blue looking. He looks like a Bond villain. Like he'd been like, wronged and stabbed in the eyeball or something. So, Marie says, my friend's dog drank her perfume and got drunk and sick, but she smells great. Oh my gosh. I guess I'm not the only one with wild dogs that like do weird stuff. All right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is just want to mention the metrics again, which I mentioned earlier. So as you're failing fast, I like 3 to 4 months. Basically, once a quarter, you should have something blow up in your face. And I do that still. Like, so I'll tell you even now. So I don't even think I told my students this. I usually tell my students all my like weird little secrets. So the past week, so basically things have been crazy since July. So since Barry had his whole medical emergency, since July, things have been crazy. And I haven't really had a lot of time, like downtime. This past week after I got done with a project was the first time I actually had some downtime. And I slept like 14 hours a night for like 3 nights. And even last night was the first time I slept like only 9 hours. So like every night before this one, I'd been sleeping like somewhere between 14 and 12 hours a night. So that gives you like, that's the failing fast, right? Like I know that right now what I was doing was too much. So if I go back and look at all the things, then I'm like, okay, how do I make that better in the future? How do I kind of deal with that and get some time off and get some rest time so that I don't have to spend like a week sleeping a billion hours a night to catch up? So for me, a lot of times that's the mistake that I'm making is like, I'm putting too much stuff in my day and then I need a bunch of rest time. But I've gotten a lot better at that because I've made like a lot of mistakes that actually really hurt, that really hurt a lot. And every 3 to 4 months, like right now, we're about 3 months, right? We're about 3 to 4 months ish. And I feel like that just kind of like helps me recalibrate. Like it helps me kind of look at like, what are the systems and things I need to do? What are the kinds of things I need to improve? What was going on during that period? It's not about beating myself up, right? And I've talked about this on here on the live stream before, which is like the idea that like if beating yourself up worked, it would have worked by now, right? Most people who beat themselves up, that's an old childhood thing we've been doing for decades. If it worked, it would have worked by now, right? So we're coming at this from a non-judgmental place of just saying like, what are the facts? Like what was going on and how can I move forward? And sometimes failing fast is like, when you really, you burn out really badly and you need some time to really like a month to like step away from stuff. And that's another thing where it's like, don't beat yourself up. Think about what you could do next time or how to better manage your rest or how to like this. For me, when I really burned out, like in 2018, when I really burned out, that was because I was doing a ton of small projects. I was doing a lot of little things a lot of the time rather than doing some big projects and some small projects or mostly big projects. That just like was too much. That's when I made the decision to be like, nope, I need to do big projects. Like I need to stop doing so many of these little articles. I need to actually do some big beefy things. And that changed my business. It changed the course of my business. Like I wouldn't be where I am now working on what I'm working on now without doing that. And for me, you're like me where like sometimes for me, in order to learn, like I really have to like scrape myself up. Like I really have to fall down and get bruised and like, get a lot of blood going and like all this stuff. Like for me, it's a lot of times when I fail, like big failures, it's like I have to learn the lesson the hard way. And that's fine. The whole point here is that we're just learning the lessons and we're not beating ourselves up. We're just like, oh, that was a hard lesson, but now I've learned it. So yeah, that I didn't really go work at Dairy Queen, but that's like the story I always tell. So like when I burned out, hey Woo, when I burned out, I've talked about this before, but so from April of 2018 to basically September of 2018, I worked every day with 2 days off, and then I had like a few days off for vacation, and then I just worked the whole time. Like I didn't have any days off. Like that whole period, I worked every single day. It was a nightmare. And so what happened was like I just got to this point where I was sitting on the floor in the bathroom or like near the bathroom crying, saying like, if it's going to be like this, I don't want to do it anymore. Like I really thought I was going to quit freelance writing, and I was just like, if freelance writing is going to be like this, I'm not going to do it. Like I have to do something else. And I was like, and then, Tommy was like, well, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do instead of being a freelance writer? And I was like, I don't know. I'll work at Dairy Queen. I don't know why I said that. Hi, Woo. Hi, Woo. But that's the story. Oh, what a nice woo from you today. Can you go back to your hobbit hole? No, you have to go back to your hobbit hole. Go back to your hobbit hole. So that was the thing. I didn't work at Dairy Queen, but for some reason in my mind, I was like, you know what? Just giving people some ice cream and making them happy. Maybe that's what I was thinking at the time, being like, you know what? That sounds fun, rather than being in the misery that I am now. Here you go. So when you work a lot on little things, or when you work a lot over a long period of time without any rest days, it's just, for me, that was a period where I just had to learn that the hard way. Like I had to learn that all of these little tiny projects I was working on it's not long-term sustainable for me. Like I'm not the type of writer that can write 20 to 50 articles a month and like, that's fine. Like that doesn't work for me. So it's just, The free ice cream. Well, yeah, but the difference, Tommy, is that it's not half-baked ice cream. It's not Ben and Jerry's. It's just like regular soft serve. Yeah, this is the same principle of what Vicky says. Is like sometimes when, the teachers are like, I have experience, don't do this, right? And then they're like, you don't understand what's going on. And then it says, right? She's like, sometimes I have to do the thing in order to outgrow it. This is the same thing. Like, there's stuff too, right? That I'm careful sometimes about what I tell my students because I want them to try things and I want them to do things without me like spoon feeding them. I want them to like learn how to fish, right? That's the whole point of the course is like, I want to teach you how to fish. I don't want you to keep coming to me being like, more fish, please. I want to teach you how to fish because if I teach you how to fish, then you will learn on your own, right? How to outgrow things or what things you need to fix or what lessons or like how you learn more about yourself than me being like, do this, don't do that. And even if I know, there are times when like I know someone doing something is not a good idea, but I'll say, try it because maybe it's not a good idea for me, but it's a good idea for them. So I'll say, try it. And sometimes it'll blow up and I'm like, well, now we learned our lesson. But I'm not setting them up for failure in that way. I'm setting them up to learn more about themselves. And I also think it's important to try things for this exact reason, right? Even if I tell you no, not to, I know there's going to be people who do it anyways. And I know that me telling you not to doesn't change the fact that there are things that you just have to learn the hard way and things that you have to outgrow and things that you have to learn on your own timeline, right? And that's the idea of failing fast. So that I like that to be every 3 to 4 months. That's how you should be trying enough stuff that you can look back and be like, oh shit, that was terrible. Like a bunch of my students have been kind of doing that. Like Marie's a good example. She tries a lot of different things. She's always like sending me emails being like, I tried this, we should talk about that. And I like collect them all because it's like really, really good stuff. Like she's often out there really checking things and trying stuff. And that's a really important attribute. That's more important. Trying things, being open and not beating yourself up for failures. That's more important. Okay. And then I told you about my big time busts. I guess we can kind of count like my recent sleeping. I'm normally like, that's like my thing sometimes is like, I just need a lot of sleep. Like I've always needed a lot of sleep. I used to sleep a lot as a baby. And even when I was in high school, when you're a teenager and you're sleeping the most, I still slept like 12 hours. So I've always needed a lot of sleep. It's just like, for me, one of the things I learned from failing fast was like, that's a really restorative activity for me. So walking the dogs is really restorative to me. And when I get really busy, I just don't like have time to do it, or the weather sucks, or it's too hot. And then like when I get back to walking the dogs and when I get back to like getting on a sleep schedule or at least like corralling the late nights, that kind of helps me, gel. But that took me a long time to figure out. But if I had beaten myself up over it, right, I would just be like, oh my God, you loser, you're sleeping again, you're wasting the whole day, rather than being like, I need this sleep to function. My brain is tired. Yeah, sleeping is like one of my favorite things. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I don't know why that was. I think like, because sometimes like one of the things that I think is, we do is like emotionally eat, right? So like when I'm at like that point in my life, Holly, was like it's one of the lowest points in my entire life. Like I fell in love with freelance writing like almost immediately. Like I just fell in love with the whole thing, and I just have developed that love like more over time. So when that period came in 2018 where I was just like, I'm gonna quit and I don't know, I'm gonna work at Dairy Queen, right? Like maybe I was just like, I'm gonna emotionally eat a bunch of ice cream because I'm so devastated right now. And maybe that's why Dairy Queen came to mind. But that was one of the lowest points in my life. And I really thought I was going to quit. Like, I really thought we wouldn't be here right now. Like, I really thought I was going to quit. And like, I had to take some time to myself. Like, I had to take like a few months. Like, I didn't do work for a month. Like, I didn't do any work for a month. And I had to take some time to like figure that out. And that giant failure led to me being here, right? It led to me meeting all of you, and it led to me building my course that I always wanted to build. and it led to me building a really awesome community. And it led to me doing all this stuff where like I wouldn't be able to teach the things that I teach without doing that, without falling on my face and being like, you know what's a good option? Dairy Queen. Let me just go stuff my face with chicken nuggets and ice cream. And that sounds like a good idea. Oh my gosh, we've got wiggle friends. All right, let's talk about 4. This is our last point. Number 4. Let's talk about this in terms of like good lessons in mental health. So number 4 here, I know we have things in the chat and I'm trying to like keep up with them. Yeah, I love the pillow, man. Like that's one of my favorite feelings. I don't talk about this. One of my favorite feelings is laying down in bed at night, just laying down and putting the covers over me. Like that's one of my favorite feelings in the whole world. Like the crisp comforter and the crisp sheets. Like I always get those like, you know, the sheets that are like, it feels like a button down shirt. Like I like the cottony sheets, like the satiny sheets. I don't like those. But that's like one of my favorite feelings in the whole world is at the end of a day, like no matter how hard or easy it was, just like laying down and being like, oh my gosh. So anyways, yeah, that's Vicky says in 2018, she quit living in a cesspool town. Well, maybe that's how we found each other, Vicky, is like, I was having the lowest moment of my life and you were like, fuck this town, I'm out. And I was like, the same thing, except I was like, I'm not doing freelance writing this way anymore. Yeah, clean sheets. Yes. All right, let's talk about this. So when you're thinking about mindset and mental health, this is like how we're looking at failure, right? So what I'm hoping is that you're getting a new pair of lenses today. You are looking at failure through a mindset of like, this is a good thing. I need to do this in order to get to the next step. The more I experiment, the more I fail, the better I learn, the more I get. And there's a difference, obviously, between like giant failures that like you could have seen coming, right? Or things where you're just like disorganized. We want to fail in an organized fashion by trying things that make sense, okay? So we want to make sure that, hi, Woo. Can you go back to your hobbit hole, Woo? Go back to your hobbit hole. You too. So when you're trying things, back up. Can you go to your hobbit hole? Can you bet? Nope, all the way over. There we go. Lay down. Nobody wants to lay down today. Think of your mindset as this new pair of lenses where we're looking at failure as a good thing. We're looking at failure as our option to get over the plateaus. So instead of like looking at, like, I always feel like, I mean, especially as someone who grew up in school, like my school was like competitive and we were always trying to get the best grades and we were always trying to like, you know, like people's parents were like competitive and it was, you know, one of the top public schools in the country. So like it was a thing. And I think it still is. It doesn't matter. But there was always this competitiveness where like you couldn't fail. Like if you got a C or like a B minus, like you had failed horrendously. Like you didn't even actually fail. And I just feel like that's the wrong approach. Like instead of looking at it as like, we need to kind of like go over some things or we need to kind of like fix these things or like see like, okay, this isn't failure. It's just like redirection. That's way more healthy for your mind and like how you look at yourself. So your mindset, your mental health, your self-image, right? It's way more healthy to look at things like, I need to kind of figure this out, or I need to look at this more, or like what types of concepts or ideas did I miss here, rather than like straight up making it black or white, you failed or you didn't. So when you're kind of looking at your failures, I think maybe it would be helpful too, and this has kind of been helpful for me, is to look back on things. Like what kinds of failures brought me to where I am now? And I can tell you like almost all of my big blow up failures, not like my little failures helped, but my big blow up failures, those made the biggest significant jumps in my business. Like I got to this point. One of the things that I learned too when I burned out in 2018 was like how to say no. I was really people pleasing. I did a lot of people pleasing and I didn't say no. And like when I got to that point where I was like, I'm going to quit. And I was mentally, physically, emotionally drained. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I literally have nothing left. Like I cannot do that. And I realized, like, it's none of their business why I'm saying no. Like, I don't have to people please, like, no, I can't do it right now, but maybe I just, like, literally, I was just like, no, I physically, emotionally, mentally cannot do this. I didn't say that, but I would say no. And that taught me to say no, which has been vital to my business going forward, to learn how to say no in the first place and then refine what I say yes to. So now I say yes to a very small percentage of things rather than back then where I just said yes to almost everything. And that was a really important lesson. Like that switch in my mindset and that switch, like it made a big difference in my mental health, because then I felt like I had boundaries and I felt like I could be myself and I could be like, I have choice. Like I have choice in saying yes and no in what I want to do. And that all came from failure. That all came from like me failing huge and then having to be like, oh, I need to like figure this out. And like, oh, I cannot work right now. So, oh, you know what? I remember this story. This is actually, I'm glad you said this. This is one of my favorite things that she says. This is why I like following Sarah Blakely. So Sarah Blakely's dad, every time she came home, used to ask her like, how did you fail today? Right. And so she would look for things to fail at or to try or whatever. And I think that's a great way to do your life. Look for opportunities for you to go out of your comfort zone. Look for opportunities for you to expand your business in ways you hadn't thought of before. Think about like, what are some things that maybe they're baby failures, right? Like maybe you're like, I really need to say no to this client. And maybe you say like no halfway and you're like, I gotta win, right? But like there's something that you can worry about, like that, not worry, that you can fix or fail at or try every single day. Like there's something to push you out of your comfort zone. And that's kind of what failing fast is it's pushing you out of your comfort zone so regularly that you end up with all of these failing fast opportunities, and then you end up with big failures along the way. But those are really good. Getting out of your comfort zone and being uncomfortable and dealing with uncertainty, especially over the last few years, that's like a skill. That's a honed skill, right? So there was a lot of uncertainty in the beginning, right? Years ago. And now that we've been in this, situation for 3 years, or whatever it's been, I feel like a lot of us are better at dealing with uncertainty. I know for me, at first, it wasn't so bad, and then it felt really bad, and then it was tough, and now it's not so bad, right? So dealing with uncertainty or dealing with difficult situations or stuff that you can't control, failing fast helps you get more palatable. That becomes more palatable, and you also start to understand it. So instead of you just like it tasting like bad medicine all the time, you start learning like, oh, this isn't even bad medicine. This is just like something I had to learn, right? I had to learn this in order to move forward. Here you go, bud. Oh my gosh, pouring rain outside. Here you go. So as you kind of look through this, look at it through a different lens. Stop beating yourself up. Look at failure as an opportunity to learn lessons, and you should be failing every 3 to 4 months. You're going to have blow-up failures sometimes, and you may learn your best lessons from those. Bless you. You okay? And I think that for me, at least, the failures have really helped my overall mental health. Like they really helped me ground myself and be able to deal with my anxiety better, or be able to take rest when I need it, or say no. Bless you. Gross. You okay? Go back to your hobbit hole. Go back to your hobbit hole. Thank you. Good job. So, parting words. Also, pup date. Also, pup date. Oh my gosh, Barry, you're drooling all over the place. That's a good phrase too. Marie says her mom would say, like, what would make today marvelous? Yeah, I like that too. I every day I ask Tommy how he's gonna have a great day. I say, how are you gonna have a great day today? And maybe that means like working hard and failing at a bunch of things, and sometimes it means, like you're just gonna try really hard to have a good day. Ready? Good job. All right, Minnie, you gonna give us a high five? Good job. Super Bean. Good job. All right. Yeah, there's another thing too about things being terrible and then like learning, sometimes there's the silver lining stuff, which helps, and sometimes there's just like everything's terrible. What's kind of a lesson I can learn, moving forward. Yeah. Okay, cool. Good job. You look super cute today. I don't have anything, but I just wanted to give you some pets. I just want to give you some pets because you guys look super cute. Okay. I think those were all the points I wanted to make, but I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope it's helped you like understand kind of reframing failure, and that failing fast is really good for you as a freelance writer. It really helps you get over the hump. It really helps you get past a lot of points where people stop or people just give up. It helps you understand your business better, yourself better, your mindset better. It helps you like kind of calibrate your mental health and how you're dealing with that, whether that's sleep or you need to eat better during times of stress, or you need to walk your dogs, or you need to blah, 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 read more books. I don't know. But I think these things are really important. Like the times where I see freelance writers get stuck is because they're not getting out of their comfort zone, which means they're not failing very much, which means they're making their world very small. We want to make our worlds very big. We want to make our worlds very big where we see lots of opportunities. Okay. If you feel like this has been helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like you want to learn more about building a business you adore or a 6-figure freelance writing business, subscribe. We are here every Friday, except sometimes for holidays. So we'll be here next Friday, right? So next Friday is not Thanksgiving. So we'll be here next Friday at noon Central Time, but not the Friday after that because it's Thanksgiving. But we'll be here next week. I'll see everybody. Yeah, I think this is good too. Sometimes, like, if you're having like a big fail, like sometimes you just, take the day, rest up, regroup, and then learn lessons later on. All right, so I will see you guys next Friday. And then, the other thing is, if you ever have a question or a topic that you want me to cover, you can put it in mandyellis.com/question, and I will answer it. This was not a subscriber submitted topic, but last week's was. And then the other thing is that 2023 is coming up. So if you need to review your pricing and you want to change your pricing, get my free pricing guide. Go to mandyellis.com/pricing guide. I updated it recently with all new different types of projects and different types of advice. So grab that. It's free. All right. I will see you guys later. I hope you have a great weekend and a great Friday. And I hope you fail fast. Failing fast is important. I hope you fail fast soon. All right. Bye.